You'll hear the recording in the background. And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our MPF webinar this month, the number 68 of our series. And delighted to have Chrissy Wolfe with us. Hi, Chrissy.
Hi, John. Hi,
And
everyone.
we were just talking about the weather in Atlanta.
Yep, a nice, dry, wonderful spring. I think many of you probably enjoyed that when you were here in Atlanta.
I love spring in Atlanta. Roger, where are you sitting today?
Sitting in New York City, 92 degrees and loving it.
92. It's let me see, it's 85 here in South Florida. It's very humid, as you can imagine. It's starting to be that time of year, and starting to get a little rain, and boy, do we need it. We need that rain. So it's 1:56. We'll start at the top of the hour. Uri is my partner in crime. He's coming at us from overseas and little spotty internet. So if he shows up, great. If not, we'll muddle through the material, have a lot to share with folks, data from our conference we just had in Atlanta. About 125 managing partners, law firm leaders from mid-sized firms all over the US and Canada. So we're going to share some of the data, some of the highlights, ask Chrissy and Roger what they have to say in terms of surprises, what lessons learned, all those good things. And as we go through the program, we'll have live polling too, which we often do. All of this recorded, all of this archived. So happy to have everyone here. So, Roger, before we get started, what say you as we go into our Memorial Day weekend?
So everybody should be following the Knicks. If they didn't see that game last night, they missed out.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Chrissy, what are you doing for Memorial Day?
We'll be enjoying, I think, a nice quiet weekend. I'm often reminded, so people in Atlanta send off fireworks now for every holiday, but this is not one of them that you should. I have some clients who are former military. I have the former military in the family, and it really is supposed to be a day of reflection and really memoriam. So I hope whatever you're doing, you enjoy it. But if you take a moment, maybe think of those who have served this country.
Excellent message. And I will tell you, the fireworks, I'm getting direct mail now from the fireworks companies. I don't know how I wind up on this list, but you know, they're peddling the fireworks already, and it doesn't take much of an occasion, it seems, to get them fired up. So we are still a few minutes away. Uri, I'm getting a text. No, I'm not. I'm sorry. My computer needs to update. See, this is my life and technology, folks. If y'all were there in Atlanta, you should have seen me. Our friend Tony DeSimone developed this AI generated video, and we do a dress rehearsal. Everything's working great until it's live and showtime and roll tape, and it doesn't roll. You know, cold sweat, soft shoe, and you know, me and technology. So let's go ahead and jump started. And not sure you'll be able to join us, unfortunately, but this is number 68 in our webinar series we've been doing since COVID set in, and we're trying to find stuff to do. And we've invited Chrissy Wolfe, and we'll ask Chrissy to introduce herself, and Roger Barton, who have both managing partners. They've been coming to our programs for a while to join us and reflect on lessons learned as we gathered a couple of weeks ago in Atlanta, Georgia. So Uri, if he shows, we'll say hi to him and invite him to the conversation. Roger, I went alphabetically on this, but part of me says, being a Southerner at heart, we start with the ladies. And Chrissy, tell us a little bit about who you are, what your firm does, and say hello to everybody.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Chrissy Wolfe. I'm one of the 3 co-managing partners of Krevolin Horst. We are a 40-attorney firm located in the heart of Atlanta. We are full service in that we have both transactional and litigation, but like many mid-sized firms, we don't have a lot of the ancillary practices. And just very happy to be here today, and very grateful to John. I've only been a co-managing partner for 2 years now. I've been going to this conference a lot longer than that, in part to help get me ready for the management role, and I always find it to be very informative and very helpful.
And Chrissy, what stuns me is, despite that knowledge, you took the job. 2 years. And there are 3 of you, so we might get into that model, that leadership model. You know, the the the, the 3 co-managing partners. Roger, tell us a little bit about what you do, what your law firm does.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Roger Barton. I'm the founder and managing partner of Barton LLP. We're based in New York City with a small office in Nashville, Tennessee, and Los Angeles, California. We are, like Chrissy's firm, we're about a little over 40 lawyers, 45 lawyers. We are approximately half the firm is transactional, half is litigation, all business, commercial related. We do have support practices such as employment and IP, tax, cyber data privacy, bankruptcy, and so forth. But the core, if you look at it, is those 2 buckets of transactional and litigation. I founded the firm with 3 lawyers, me, myself, and I. So have grown it to what it is now. So
and the other 2 guys left, huh?
The other 2 guys, I couldn't handle it. One made a lot of money and left. The other one just couldn't handle it. So unlike Chrissy, I guess, I was just sort of thrown into this by my own decision to start a firm, and have attended the Managing Partner Forum for several years, and just, it's never ceased to come away with so many ideas. And John, this year, I think you're really good in telling people, just pick one. Don't come back to your firm and overload everybody with the 50 ideas. I'm using about 10. So
yeah,
but I've got,
and that's a big list, Roger.
Group.
That's a good list. I hear from the poor COOs frequently. The managing partner comes home from our conference with a list of things we're going to get done, and make it so. I agree with you. Focus on priorities. We can't. Rome wasn't built in a day. Focus on the priorities. So both of you all have big law in your backgrounds, correct? Chrissy, you worked at. I'm thinking, was it Jones Day?
I was at Paul Hastings, and then I was at a firm called McKenna Long and Aldridge, which merged with Denton's.
And you just had enough of big law, and what brought you to the smaller boutique environment?
I actually really enjoy working with middle market clients and doing domestic middle market M&A. And when you're at a big law firm that's internationally focused, you're no longer aligned with their top ideals. And so it seems like a good idea to me to be able to pursue what I wanted to find some place that would support doing domestic middle market M&A.
Excellent. Roger, you have big law in your background too, as I recall.
Yes, I was at Sidley Austin with hundreds of my favorite friends. Now it would be thousands.
Yes.
For me, it was similar to Chrissy's journey in that I developed business early on in my career, which was unique to do, and it just long term wouldn't fit at a huge firm like that. But also I had this itch for business, and since I didn't go to business school, I was a Russian history major. Law was the business I knew, so that's what I jumped into as a business.
Russian history major.
Yeah.
You parlayed that into a law firm. Good for you. Good for you. Good for you. So thank you for those introductions, and let's jump on in here. A few shameless announcements, and then we'll dive right into our materials. We've been doing the webinars for a good stretch. This is number 68 in the series. And as well, we've introduced this generative AI set of webinars. I partner with a fellow named Tony DeSimone out of Buffalo, New York. He does a great job dispensing practical advice to firm leaders, how to wrap around this artificial intelligence. And, we're all trying to figure it out. And if you find the solution, folks, give me a call offline. We'll get rich. So we're doing the generative AIs every other month. In the fall, we have our Women's Leadership Conference. It's in Chicago. So we'll be opening registration in just a couple of weeks. The newsletter and our website, we're in the process of revamping that puppy, trying to be a resource to help folks like Chrissy, Roger, many of you on the call be more effective in what's a very challenging role and often ill-defined in many, many law firms. So trying to help. We're running professional organizations, but we're also running businesses. Coming to today's program, we have 75 managing partners, great quality registration list who signed up. And we will do in the surveys, we're recorded, we'll send you all the follow-up post-event. So let's dispense with the announcements and jump on to the data. And our first polling question, and this is just for context, Chrissy, Roger, firm sizes in the room today. If you all would reveal how many lawyers work with your law firm. And I'll end results once we get about 75%, a super majority. Few you folks need to be voting. Uri, welcome. You're back. You're back.
Thank you. Yeah,
I,
thank you. It's the technology, you know, just when you're about to start a webinar, your computer freezes up, says must
well,
install updates. I
yeah,
apologize.
isn't that great? And I'm just glad it wasn't me for a change, you know, with the technology snafu. So here are our firm sizes. This hits at our sweet spot. So so often we hear from managing so much data geared toward the am law firms, and you know, okay, interesting, but not necessarily relatable to our law firm. So we are square on the mid-sized law firms. When you're registered, Ori, I think I was trying to do a little tap dance while you were trying to bring in here, and we went through these slides. You were going to take that last one. I was going to take this stretch. So let me run with it, and then you jump in whenever. When you
Perfect.
register, we always ask questions, and this one from the list below. What's your priority? Two. We said pick two from this list, and here's what you told us in terms of. I'm sorry, one priority. One priority. Recruiting, technology integration. Chrissy, that sound about right?
Yeah, it sounds about right. I'm wondering, you know, where AI fell for most people here, because I think that probably is top of mind for a lot of people, but I would assume it's under technology integration.
That was the intent. You know, cybersecurity and technology, all that stuff. Roger, is this about right in terms of what you all are focusing at Barton?
Yeah, it's totally right. And I think it's interesting to see what happened this year, particularly at the conference, which, by the way, was excellent, John and Ori, because it's the first year I think we've got enough experience with technology that's new for law firm practices. I mean, up to now, technology has been cyber and data privacy, e-discovery, all the things we've used for so long. This is the first year where a new technology with broad applications is really starting to get some traction and use cases. So we're all trying to figure out how to integrate it, and that doesn't surprise me.
You know, Nuri and I we were talking, you know, back in the day when there were libraries and books and stuff like that, and here comes this crazy thing called the internet. And now, you know, fast forward 25 years, here we are again, resetting with the internet on steroids, it seems. And you know, I think evolving, adapting, all these good things. So, we've been asking this question, different formats, New York programs we present. What do you think? Any surprise to priorities? This is a group of 75 managing partners in May, just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, this talent recruiting didn't surprise me. I am interested in maybe if I could just ping one question back to Chrissy and Roger, which is when you're recruiting, how much does technology impact who you are recruiting, what level you're recruiting, what experiences, and what you're building as you do laterals? Both, I think your firms have been doing a lot of lateral hiring, and how important is technology in figuring out who would be a good fit?
Chrissy, you want to take that one for
Sure.
starters?
You know, right now, as far as just recruiting generally, I think we follow a model that many people do, right? You have an outside, or maybe you have an in-house talent recruiter. You bring them in for interviews, them being the candidate. Some people are more sophisticated than others and maybe apply personality or other tests like a Myers-Briggs to see how well the person will fit in the firm. And then you make your hiring decision. So that's actually really not a lot of technology in that process. And I would say we don't right now use a lot of technology, but I want to look into more about how to do that, including to the extent it's legally permissible, just doing a little bit more candidate intelligence, whether it's through an AI tool or some other type of tool.
In terms of due diligence, background checking, stuff like that?
Background checks and all of that we run, but there are ways now to, I mean, if you go and use chat, it can look at anything that's on the internet, including social media. And again, you have to stay within the lines of what's permissible when you're thinking about hiring and making hiring decisions. But I'm sure that there's technology out there that could really help a little bit more with candidate vetting and sort of the things you don't know, right? After you've met somebody for half a day and they seem like a fantastic person, and then you find out that they're just not a fit for one reason or another.
Yep. And you mentioned the personality assessments. I like that idea a lot.
Mhm.
Roger, you're recruiting, as technology give you a recruiting advantage? Do people want to see that investment in technology?
I mean,
Is it impacting your hiring decisions? You know, are you
in
hiring
terms of,
paralegal first year?
yeah, no, no doubt. I mean, we, like Chrissy's firm, we look to hire out of the large firms. We want the training, we want the pedigree, we want sophistication that brings. And the large firms have a robust tech stack. I mean, that's where they're investing a lot of dollars, and they can afford to do that. So we need to compete, and we can, because there are technologies available to firms of our size that are, more expensive than our spend last year, but we're going to use those to leverage, I think, a better practice experience for both our lawyers and the clients. What's interesting, I think, in your question is, do we somehow select out lawyers that are more tech savvy, tech enabled, use tech in their practice? We haven't gotten there yet. I think what our approach, technology or otherwise, is to sort of meet that lawyer where they are. Once we would determine that it's a good lateral fit, the practice fits, the clients fit, their own industries fit, all the things you look for, culture. Then it's a question of, how do they use technology in their practice? And what do they want to see from us? And can we maybe, if they're a bit on the dinosaur side of things, help them to adopt? So it's really sort of meeting them where they are and then just leveling it up.
Yeah, I do think to something Roger said, as far as, and I count this more almost like retention, younger lawyers coming out are now being trained on the AI tools for Westlaw and Lexis in law school. And they are going to be familiar with that, but I think also start looking for that. And to the extent AI is not available to them, it might be harder to retain them, because they'll be used to having a more efficient way to run their practice than having to use non-AI tools. So I do think, and again, like Roger, we don't hire right out of law school, or maybe you do, Roger, we do not. So for us, we won't see it for a few years, but I do think AI will be important in retention.
We've been asking this question, I think, since we introduced the webinar series, and you've seen some shifts in priorities as coming out of COVID. It was about remote work and firm culture and all that sort of stuff. And then retention became a really, really hot issue. These kids like to jump around, and we hire them up, train them up, only to watch them leave. Vexing issue. We partnered with NALP, National Association of Law Placement, on some programmings. And this is light on technology integration. From recent polling, we've been asking about technology integration, really seems to have surged as the #1 priority. I'm surprised, and this is among our registrants today, that the technology integration is not higher, not the #1 priority. Let me skim through this as well, and Uri, jump in here. We ask about oversight policy. I hope everybody has policy by now, and you can get a good start on ChatGPT and make sure it's compliant with your bar rules and regs. People are aware of the policy, but is there oversight? A lot of firms enact rules, mandates, regulations, and there's not the best accountability and oversight. So, Chrissy, you guys got policy. Do you enforce it? If so, how aggressively?
We do have a policy. It's relatively new for us. But I think the things that underlie the policy are rules that have applied to lawyers and law firms for a long time, like, for instance, confidentiality, ethical obligations, etc. We have approached it from a slightly different perspective, in that we're asking people what tools are they using, and we're making sure then that, to the extent it's helpful to somebody, we have a technology committee. They're looking into whether or not it's something the firm should adopt on a firm-wide basis. But our enforcement is a little bit different. We're not going around telling people they can't use things. What we want to do, knowing that they will use them, is get them the right tool for the job, so that they have one that's safe and compliant with our ethical obligations. And that's what people are using, rather than going around and using chat on the side.
Chrissy, doesn't that, I mean, aren't you going to end up with a hodgepodge? Everyone has their favorite tools, and the firm's trying to accommodate all of them. I mean, just strategically, it seems to be kind of tough to manage if you got all that stuff going on.
Yeah. So again, technology committee, we're going to vet the best thing and roll it out. Our policy doesn't say you can't use non-firm approved technologies. You just can't use them on client matters.
Okay.
And so will we ever be able to 100% police what people do? No, but we'll make sure that they have a safe way to do the things that they need to do and that AI will help them do on client matters.
How do you address the policy and if you have policy and the oversight, if any?
Part of it is just going around and having conversations, right? We have an outside managed services provider. It's quite possible that they could check everyone's usage and see whether or not they're using tools. But if they're on their own phone and they're using chat and it's not an enterprise version, we might not know. So it's making sure to have those conversations with people, making sure they're aware of the policy, and then also finding out about usage, and addressing it fairly directly when it happens if it's a tool that's not supposed to be used.
Roger, over to you. How do you guys look at policy and oversight?
Yeah, we have a policy, and it's pretty much exactly like Chrissy's, which is, you can't put client data, you can't use it for client purposes unless it's one of our approved systems. But also, like Chrissy, I think right now we are in a just moment of time where there are so many different providers and applications and use cases and what have you, that nothing really is bubbled up to be the 2 or 3 gold standards, right? There's not a Google, as it used to, as it exists now as the search engine or others. So we're in the early days of the internet where the AOL guy was kind of walking across your screen. So I think,
Remember him?
we've taken the policy being pretty open, particularly with our younger folks. Like, we know you're using stuff. You can have immunity, as long as you're following the guideline of not putting our client data at risk and not using it without verifying. But we want to know what you're using, because you may find a tool that works great for our firm, and we want to know about that. So don't be shy. Don't feel like you're going to get punished for it. Bring it back to the firm. We also have a technology committee. We have someone who is relatively senior in the associate ranks, who just joined us from an AmLaw 50 firm, was on their technology committee, so has a wealth of information. So we're just, as much as we can from our external consultants and internal use, trying to just distill what's there. I think the next 1.5 to 2 years is going to be a lot of experimentation, and then the winners will rise to the top. One thing I learned at the conference, which is what we're doing, no one's signing more than 1-year contracts for technology these days.
Right. Right.
And I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We asked in Atlanta, what are you using in the list of suspects? No, we did not in Atlanta. In an AI webinar we did, and Harvey is really gaining some traction. It's expensive. People think it's a big law product, but the smaller firms that are using it say it's unbelievably powerful.
Yeah.
Copilot's encrypted, built into Microsoft 365. ChatGPT is dominant. But there's going to be a lot of shakeout, as we know. And I agree, Roger, 1-year contracts more than enough. Here's a big area where we find a disconnect on the training. The tools are out there. People are using them, hopefully responsibly, ethically. But training, 41% of firms are not providing any training in a formal, organized way. Roger, you guys training up your folks at Barton?
We train them on the things that we buy, but it's not as robust as I'd like it to be. You bring in the new shiny toy, you do a couple of training sessions, people go off and use it. That's when they really learn it, right? And then you really should have more follow-up training and more granular as you go down. We don't do that as well as we should, and we're kind of wrestling with. There are a bunch of consultants out there that will come in and do AI training on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's something we need to do.
D. Simone is getting hired up. He claims to be agnostic. The LexisNexis people come in and train you on their products.
Yeah.
Chrissy, are you guys doing much training? If so, where are you getting it for Krevolin?
Almost all our vendors will do product-specific training, right? So we also have co-counsel through Westlaw, and there's a lot of webinars, CLEs, and videos and other trainings that you can get through your vendors. I think what Tony was saying at the conference, and I think this was very useful, was really, if you're going to focus on training around AI, you should focus on prompt training and prompt engineering. And that's really how to ask questions of any generative AI in order to get a viable answer, not maybe the answer you want, right? Generative AI is there to give you the answer you want, which is why it sometimes hallucinates and makes things up because it's trying to please you. It's like a people pleaser.
Yes.
So,
Sycophantic. Yes.
so you really have to approach it like, oh, this thing is trained to please me. So how do I double check that what it's telling me is what I want to know, not what I want to hear? And so I think for us, we're going to start doing a little bit more around prompt training.
Uri, from a risk management perspective, do you want to talk a little bit about training, policy, what guidance you're putting out there to smaller and mid-sized law firms?
Yeah, sure. Just as a practical matter, I like the way Chrissy said it, which is our policy is you can use all these tools, but our obligations remain. And I think that that sort of summarizes most AI policies that we see, that we recommend. Just because you're using a technology doesn't mean that you have less obligations. I think we are all scarred or should be scarred by the newspaper stories pretty much every day of an abuse of tools. Basically, people are abusing tools and work product. There's no excuse for the rules that, oh, I got it from a computer. It doesn't matter. We have the same obligations in every jurisdiction. That's number one. Number two, in terms of risk management, supervision doesn't go away just because you're using a technology. Even if it's expensive, you still have the same obligations. It's sort of like when people, we're all old enough, I remember when people asked me about malpractice insurance in the age of email. Now, nothing changed with email. I got the same question with text messages. And the answer is sometimes we make more mistakes because we write back too quickly, or we're not saving all the documentation we should when we get a text message. But these are all technical answers. The bottom line is the malpractice risk remains exact same. You're responsible for what you do. You're responsible for what people under you do. And the fact that you have a tool that might make your job and the work product quicker, that's great. That's great. I'm actually doing an interview tomorrow for a national legal publication. That's the question they want to discuss with me, is how insurance covers AI. I mean, they're buying into the Kool-Aid too, that, it's a whole nother risk. Bottom line is nothing's changed from that perspective, but we're moving even faster. I think that was with the email. That was the answer with the email. That was the email with text messages. We're moving faster and faster. And the fact that you felt like you needed to give the answer faster is never an excuse for a malpractice claim. So nothing earth shattering there, John.
We did an ethical program webinar and brought in ethics counsel from the Florida bar. Florida was the first state to promulgate rules on AI use, and the ABA had some model rules, and the states are knocking them down. I think we're up to 23, 24, and they're all pretty much the same. Confidentiality, accurate work product, and ethical billing practices, good things to keep in mind, and just new set of tools.
And we still have the duty of competence. So, this is a legal tool that you need to use in your practice. You need to have a level of proficiency with it.
So Uri, you're going to take us from here, set us up on some of the data we collected in Atlanta. This was from our registrants today, what we just went through. And now this is data we picked up in Atlanta through live polling.
So we had a great conference 2 weeks ago in Atlanta, and 125 participants from all around the country, 28 states, 3 Canadian provinces, DC, and the British West Indies. I believe that's BWI, John. Is that right?
That's what that is. Yep.
With a lot of returnees. So this data we're going to share was gathered real time there at the conference, and we'll hear from Chrissy and Roger some of their takeaways and things they learned at the conference as well. So, John, take it away.
Well, what gratifies me is so many people come back, every year, every other year, every third year, and they're bringing along their successor in many cases, which is really, really great to see. And, we keep it small, intimate, high level for people just like Chrissy and Roger. So survey highlights. Again, we're doing the live polling, 120 some firm leaders, and we asked, I'm just going to, if you want to stop me, I'm looking at the time and want to pick up the pace a little bit. but we asked your top 2 priorities in 2026. Now, contrast this with what we just heard from this audience, where recruiting talent was by far number 1, integrating technology a distant number 2. Here we see a slightly different variance, but integrating technology, recruiting, retaining talent, they are intertwined. They are intertwined. Chrissy, I'll ask you, Roger, any surprise to the priorities that firms present here on this graph? And Chrissy, I'll start with you.
No surprises, but there is one change from prior years, and that succession planning has gone way down. I don't know if that's just because AI is so new, or if perhaps over the many years people have used John in his conference to help them successfully transition. That is
some have, some haven't.
that is one that's usually a little bit higher that I see that's not as high of a priority, at least this year.
Interesting, and I'll keep it moving. Here's a live polling question. Uri, you're going to set us up on this one. Hang on, let me click the buttons I need to click on my end.
Yeah. So from these options, what best describes your firm's posture? So your risk posture, how you think about it from a leadership, your firm's risk posture on generative AI adoption. Are you really conservative? We're going to be restrictive on here. Down to aggressive early adopter, innovation first mindset. That sort of goes to use every tool you want, and sort of in the middle, we'll do controlled experimentation. We're balanced, evolving policies. Where do you see your firm? Roger, where do you think, as the votes are coming in, Roger, what do you think most people are going to say it's their firm's risk posture?
As it's coming in, I would say balanced use with evolving policies. I mean, we are by nature a risk-averse profession, right?
Yes.
And this is being, not want to say forced upon us, but it's out there and we got to adopt it. So, but I think we're going to take our usual approach. I love the phrase I heard at the conference so many times. We want to be first to be second. We're not going to be out there,
not on the leading edge. We'll follow.
Be first
we'll follow.
To be second. Yeah. I think that's where
we come that in. Expression. Vote, folks. We need some votes here. And, lawyers, as you say, tend to be risk averse and a little slow to change. Chrissy, where would you put your firm on this question? Just curious where you would assess your firm's answer to this question.
Probably under balanced. The person I want to talk to is the aggressive early adopter, just to see what they're up to.
They so often we have a few that are really leaning in, and we're encouraging them to share. But often, if they think they're onto something, they may not be so eager to share it with everybody. But here's we ask profitability. Is the billable hour raising rates? Can we sustain this billable hour model and keep raising rates, given the AI and these new tools coming in, firms experimenting with different pricing models? Roger, is your firm experimenting with different pricing models? Any strategies you're deploying that you think is having a significant impact on your profitability?
We're not doing anything new per se. I mean, our firm, we're kind of like this conversation yesterday with some of the firm. We're built like an AI firm. We have always been top-heavy, partner-led, a moderate level of associates, and even a smaller group of paralegals. So we're not doing the low-level commodity work that AI, is designed for right now, anyway. So that's not so much. When I look at this chart, though, I would tell you the 3 categories of better timekeeping and billing, better collections, and better intake are managing what you've already got. And if you manage that better, that money just drops to the bottom line. And you don't have to alienate clients by raising rates or or your people by making them work more. It's just to manage yourselves better. So I think those 3 categories should get a lot of attention.
Timekeeping, billing, collections, the basics. I call that basic hygiene. If we're working the billable hour, we should get pretty good at this. And
that's where that's where AI comes in. There's all these AI overlays to your time and billing program. which was a lot of what was talked about at the conference. So I think those three categories, there's gold in them, our hills.
Chrissy, what are you finding to be strong profit drivers for your firm?
Probably nothing too different from here, but I'm reminded of alternative fees and how big they were maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of us probably missed the boat on those because now with the introduction of AI, that would be how to really drive profit is have a flat fee where you can control your efficiency and increase your profit on the margins. But I don't think that's really, I don't think that's really in the immediate future for law firms.
They set us up.
So how are your clients reacting to your firm's use of generative AI? This is an important poll question for our audience today. How are your clients reacting? Roger, as people are voting in, how are your clients reacting?
I'm in the occasional inquiries section.
Uh-huh.
We don't have any clients yet that are demanding it of us. They're all curious, not all, but many are curious what we're using. We're beginning to drive it into our engagement letters, where you would appreciate the risk issues around that and why you may want to put that in your engagement letter if you're using AI.
Yep.
But it's more of just a exploratory conversations. The in-house counsel, I was at a conference last week with a lot of in-house counsel. They're trying to figure it out within their organizations. Once they do, to Chrissy's point, the alternative fee ship may have left, the terminal, so to speak, that they're going to do a lot of that work internally that we would otherwise do on a alternative fee or flat fee basis. So it remains to be seen how it's going to work.
Who's initiating the conversations, Roger? Are you taking it to clients and asking about how they're using it, how we can work together?
Yeah, it's more us than them. Yeah, it's more, we're taking it to them more than they're taking it to us, in part because I want to know what they're using. Because again, going back to my earlier comment, there's so much out there. And before anybody makes a commitment long term, both in training and money, to one or two systems, I think it's important to just learn what's being used by the in-house world.
Are most of your clients, they're big companies, most of them have in-house counsel, pretty sophisticated consumers of legal services, or not?
It runs the gamut, and we've got many in that category. We've got many that are privately held businesses that are doing, significant revenue, but not sophisticated legal management. And then we've got entrepreneurs who are, just out there winging it.
Chrissy, what are you feeling from your clients regarding generative AI and how it's being applied to their matters?
Yeah, it's very similar to Roger. I've had a few clients who have asked, "Are you going to use AI in that?" But it's more curious. And the answer was, for one of them, was actually yes. They just wanted a summary of an agreement, so I'll probably use Copilot to help. But as I
There
told
you
them,
go.
that doesn't mean that it only takes 10 minutes because we still have to look at it. I've had clients who I can tell are using AI in their responses to us, which is always very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
you can tell.
it's not always helping the conversation, so just be aware of that. And then I've had clients who have sent us AI written stuff. Some will say it is and just say, "Hey, we had AI do this. Can you look at it?" And I find when that happens, I'm a little gratified because AI still isn't picking up on the nuances of indemnification and other things, so I still have a job. But it runs the gamut.
That prompting thing is so important here. And Uri and I we've been doing, Roger, I think you came to our program in New York at the Yale Club where we had a panel of in-house counsel. And they were remarking how reluctant their outside firms are not coming to us to initiate the conversation. We're having to go to them to initiate the conversations. Wouldn't it be nice to hear from some of our outside counsel? Sit down and have a conversation with us, and let's together figure out how we're going to work this to bring predictability to our spend for counsel, both in and out, and reining in the budget. I'm getting a lot of pressure from the CFO, the COO to rein it in. So that was one of my takeaways, Uri, from our programs last go round up New York, New Jersey way is I think clients want to hear from you. and
I
don't be afraid. I mean, we're all trying to figure this out. You don't have to have it all figured out and the perfect answer to everything before you sit down and start to have those conversations.
I think you have to, and I'll tell you why. It's good practice, and everybody's been talking about it for a long time. But I think there's another reason to have that conversation. I heard from, and this won't surprise many of you, if you do insurance defense work, those clients tend to be on the bleeding edge of making demands on their firms, just the way that industry is set up. And I was talking with a client today, a large insurance defense firm in the New York region, and they have clients who tell them which AI to use, which, by the way, is the client's AI. So their lawyers are logging into their AI system and doing the legal work on their AI system. Guess who benefits from all that legal training? Talk about learning on your documents to do other pleadings with other lawyers. So if
Right.
you're not prepared for that, I think it's not going to be too far off, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, where your clients are going to come to you and say, do you have an AI system? Because if not, we have one that we actually prefer you use. It's optional, or maybe it becomes mandatory at some short time if you're not ready. So you want to be ready for that conversation. I think we have spoken in groups before. People have to be prepared for that cost discussion, which ultimately will come from that. So you can wait till they ask the question, or you can be proactive. And I think be proactive.
And boy, those insurance companies, boy,
Oh,
they're going to use this to beat down those rates and make things more efficient, maybe bring more work in house. Who knows? But boy, you got to think they're among the most sophisticated, high volume users of legal services, and if any
mm-hmm.
industry's on it, the insurance companies are. Here's a question. This is coming out of Atlanta, the 125 managing partners, and we asked from this list, what's your biggest concern? And we've seen movement here. It was client confidentiality, hallucinated
Yeah.
work product. Now we see it moving into a little more long-sighted, strategic type of thing. We move beyond the confidentiality, the training. Yeah, got it. But yeah, the training and investing in our young lawyers, and how is this going to impact our recruiting, our need for paralegals for second-year associates? You know, trying to figure that out. Um, Or you work with a lot of firms. What are you seeing in terms of, you know,
Well, I think this is the fear of, if everybody is using AI to do the work of a first year, second year, dare I say third year, we won't have anybody who has any experience if you just play that out a couple of years. So some firms are like, it's okay, I'll poach from other people. But if you don't have people learning at your firm, if the industry doesn't, we're toast. Chrissy, do you worry about this? Roger, do you worry about this?
the pipeline coming up?
I don't too much. I mean, I do worry about the pipeline coming up for other reasons, but as far as training on AI, it's a little bit like asking me if I had to train my 10 and 13-year-old how to, like, work a TV or work an iPad. Like, they know, right? It's more that they don't know how to use a rotary phone. So the younger
Well, no, I
lawyers,
mean they won't know how to. I mean they won't know how to write a first draft or recognize
Research,
errors in a draft or
draft.
research.
quite possibly, I think it's the one thing I have noticed is that younger lawyers are so used to being able to find things very quickly by just controlling and finding or whatever, that sometimes they don't actually read. I don't know if that's new though in the law, right? You always have to train your younger associates on any number of things, but attention to detail, making sure that they're thinking critically, all of those things. Law school helps with some of it, but it's a continued learning experience for any lawyer. I do think one of the reasons I'm not concerned is, right, if I talk to people who started practice 20 years before I did, they got trained in how to redline documents.
Right.
Right?
Or how to
Was
pull
that
them up
really a
off the
lawyer
shelf. Yeah.
skill? No.
Right.
So this is
Right.
going to replace some skills that aren't necessarily lawyer skills, and will allow our young people to get to more critical thinking, what I call the fun stuff, I think, a little faster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Roger, comment before we move on?
Yeah, I think this really falls into, the prompt engineering category. It took me, most lawyers several years. I feel like it took me 5 years to get to the level where you're comfortable, where you don't know what the answer is, but you know what it should be. And then when you start doing research, you're doing it from the perspective of validating that. And that's sort of what you're looking at with prompt engineering. You don't know what to ask of AI unless you kind of know what the roadmap to the answer is. So how do we, train our lawyers, to understand that is, I think, the challenge. The rest of it, it's a tool. It's like your Westlaw, Lexis, or whatever. It's a tool. But how do we get them to have enough knowledge under their belts to be able to effectively use the tool?
I think these are going to be interesting times, and we've seen firms take different strategies. We're not going to hire. We got a hiring freeze on paralegals first, second, third years. We can't feed them, like we used to be able to with all this document review and discovery and the rest of it. And other firms are saying, yeah, where's the pipeline coming from? Our talent. We just might not be able to bill as aggressively as we used to for all those associate billable hours, but we got to train them up. And it's interesting how firms are approaching this talent recruiting piece. We saw how important that was, recruiting and retention, and how AI is going to play into all this. Here's talking about pricing. Chrissy, you guys playing around with any alternative fees that are generated by AI applications? Anything going on there at your firm in that area?
There's nothing new. I've had this conversation with clients for well over a decade now. We'll always offer alternative fees. We'll think about alternative fee arrangements. A lot of them still want to default to hourly. I think they're a little afraid that when they enter into an alternative fee arrangement, they might wind up paying more for services than they would have otherwise. So there's no new conversations around it. Again, I do think if you had something where you had a more alternative arrangement, let's say like a portfolio pricing where you're just paid a certain amount by a client in that year and you get the work done, there might be opportunities to increase your margins there. But yeah, no change yet.
Roger,
you kicking around alternative fees at all?
We've offered alternative. Yeah, we've offered alternative fees for years. Flat fees, fixed fees, budgets, some mixture of hybrid of contingency, once in a while a full contingency. But that's a very minor part of our revenue because clients typically, to Chrissy's point, don't want it. We're not a firm that churns out a lot of commodity work. I think that's where the pricing is going to benefit from AI. If we did, X number of mortgage documents or what, think of something that's very generic. Yeah, I think that area of practice is going to benefit first and foremost from AI and fixed pricing. As you get further up the chain, I don't know.
Coming back to the conference just a couple of weeks ago, a lot of energy, a lot of great ideas. Christy, what was your biggest takeaway from the 2 days of immersive meetings and networking and the rest of it?
I always really enjoy the conference. I didn't have any big aha moments, but there were a few. For instance, there's apparently something called Applaud, which is something that you can wear and it records wherever you go. Had not heard of that yet, but it was a reminder of how as technology is quickly changing, we have to stay on top of it. There's a couple different things there. There's confidentiality, there's attorney-client privilege, right? If there's a third-party recorder in the room like that and it's being stored in some sort of software or AI, that can break the attorney-client privilege. So it was very eye-opening to realize how quickly technology is moving and how small it can be and how you may not know even that people are using it to record you and what that impact may have on you and your clients. I think that was one of the bigger takeaways for me.
Sure, what'd you come out of there with?
I would say this, first and foremost, you guys do an excellent job, and I think this was maybe one of the best conferences that you've ever had, so kudos to you guys on that. I think this conference, I felt that the collaboration among the law firm leaders was the highest it's ever been because we're all faced with this AI challenge. And as Chrissy said earlier, succession planning used to be, a big topic, but it's a gnarly one. It's specific to each firm, personalities, culture, blah, blah, blah. Whereas the AI technology challenge, we're all facing it, regardless of our practice and types of firms. And the collaboration around that, the conversations around that, were just, really fantastic. And it just shows I always think we have a noble profession. There's all the lawyer jokes, whatever you want to say, but I really think it's a noble profession. We do value each other, we respect each other, and this was a great opportunity to learn from each other. So that was a big takeaway for me.
Do you find, Roger, firms just all over the place in terms of the AI integration and the whole business of law? A strategic plan, vision, all these good things. Do you find firms are in operating fairly consistently or just all over the map
I
how
think
they
it's all
run the
over the map.
enterprise?
It's all over the map. I mean, the
Yeah.
large firms have teams of in-house people developing their own AI solutions and so forth and so on. The mid to small size firms, we're going to be renters, not owners. So we're all just trying to figure out what do we want to rent this year. And if we're going to rent it, how do we integrate it into our firms, that whole integration piece? Do we have the right skill set of people in our firm? Because we have not, out of law school, looked to hire technologists. We've looked to hire people, like Chrissy said, are good critical thinkers and can write and can reason. There's a different skill set that I think we're going to need in our firms. And we talk about, young associates. We may not have associates that look like the associates we have now. We may have ones that are more tech forward and so forth. So I think we're all trying to figure that out.
Prompt engineering, it came up earlier, is going to be a very valuable skill set, I think, for young lawyers and any lawyer for that matter. Any anything else takeaways, Uri? What were your big takeaways? You've been doing this conference for, geez, it's got to be a dozen years.
Yeah, I think I'll share something from our MPI. I moderated one of the MPIs, the Managing Partner Idea Exchange, and something that came up quite often, and I don't know if I'm more sensitive to it as we get older, but there was a lot of that generation culture discussion, and it's related to succession, but it's the folks in the room looking around their own tables and saying, I'm not sure that we have the folks in the room that can do this in 10 years, 15 years. How is that succession going to look? So while there was a lot of talk about AI, and I think people, I don't know if Chrissy said it, but a lot of people expressed in our session how it's still early. We don't know what's going to happen exactly. To Roger's point, we're buying 1-year contracts. This is early. We're not sure exactly how AI is going to come, but I'm not sure we have the leadership and the future leadership in the room to execute, because one thing is for sure, it's unknown. I mean, I don't know if anybody saw this coming 3 years ago. I certainly didn't, and the people in my room did not. Do we have the people now on our team who can make this leap? And how big that leap is going to be, still too early to tell, but people are not confident. And that's still the old succession planning. Essentially, is do we have the right team to take us to the next level? That's what I
I
heard a
have
lot of,
a
John.
lot of the managing partners come over the years saying, John, I can't get anyone to take this job. I mean, people see what I go through and how undervalued and underappreciated it is, and I can't find my successor. What do we do?
John,
Chrissy,
what was your takeaway? What was your big takeaway, John? You ask all the
well,
questions. What
I've
was
been
John's
asking.
big takeaways?
We're running businesses, and I think a strategic plan. It doesn't have to be some big complicated thing. It's not a big law thing, but some notion of vision as to where we want to take this shop. A 3-year horizon, maybe looking out 5 years, our size and appetite for growth, the areas in which we want to grow, the industries. I love the industries where we want to be recognized as a go-to law firm in our self-selected niche. Um, back to, Chat GPT. This was probably 3 years ago. I'm up, doing the keynote thing, and this lady from Buffalo, New York, Rosanna
Oh, yeah.
Berardi, she runs an immigration boutique. That's all she does, immigration law. It's federal practice. Her practice, as you can imagine, is booming. and she embraced ChatGPT early on. And if you search nuances of federal immigration law and such, she is often cited as the expert. 15 lawyer firm in Buffalo, New York. She's now on CNN being interviewed about, immigration and ICE and whatever. I mean, little firm, well niched, and here she's developed an international reputation based on leaning into Chat GPT really, really early and playing with it. And you got to ride the bike around. You might scrape your knee a time or two, but you want to learn to ride a 10 speed. You got to start somewhere. And so that's her story. And she comes running up to the stage. John, Chat GPT. I didn't know what she was talking about. Chat GPT, chat, and I'm thinking, get out of my way. I got, and 3 years ago, and here it is. And Roger, we talk about sense of urgency. Succession is something we can push till to next week, next month, next year. We'll get around to it. But time sneaks up on you as a founder of a law firm, as a managing partner, and if you want the firm to succeed, you got to be looking toward young lawyers, trying to identify them, or you see a lot of first generation firms don't make it beyond the founding partners. That's too bad. I love this little guy. Any shockers, Uri? I'll ask you that one. Anything really surprise you this year's program?
I did meet some people, surprisingly, who were like Roseanne, are really into AI. I was shocked because there are some. I don't know if they were Chrissy or Roger on your groups, but there were some people who were really ahead on AI, and they were telling me all kinds of stuff I never heard of. I was just blown away. So, John, some firms are leaning into this. They know all the programs they've bought. They know where they're going with this. They have a vision. They're hiring people specialized for it. So I did hear and meet some people like that, and I was impressed. That was the biggest surprise to me.
There was a newcomer from Arizona, Billy, I can't remember her last name, Family Law Boutique in Arizona, and she calls her firm Modern Law. And here Arizona, with its alternative business structures and non-lawyer ownership, private equity in there, Arizona and Utah, some interesting things going on. We're going to come back to that because disruption's coming, folks. I think faster than you may think. Chrissy, any big surprises for you this year? We kind of
No,
covered it already, but
no huge surprises. I think I guess maybe something that pleasantly surprised me is how much AI people were already utilizing and in different ways, and that really helped, I think, with the group learning aspects. I think people think lawyers are really not using AI, and at least for all the managing partners that we spoke with there, everyone was using it or aware enough of it that it was a good conversation. Next year, John, I think we'll be talking about agentic AI.
Yeah.
oh no. All right. Roger, anything before we move forward, and anything really surprising
My biggest
you that
surprise
we
was
haven't yet talked about?
the biggest surprise were the older partners seem to be more facile and interested in AI than the younger ones. It was interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You'd think it'd be the other way around, right?
Well, no, they're using it a lot more than the others. See, this is
I
my
suggest-
adoption curve, you guys,
Can I suggest why?
because they're paying for
They're paying for it, and they think it can replace their associates.
it.
It's the truth. It's the
It's a
truth.
cynical view, Mr. Goodfriend.
Well,
I am the
lawyers
cynic here,
cynical,
that's fair.
Roger, come on.
I'm the
That's a
cynic in the room.
surprise.
I'll say what other people are thinking. I'm okay with that.
I do that all the time, and often I get in trouble, Uri, when I blurt things out, and it's like I need to reel that one back. So the old adoption curve, this stuff isn't going away. Law firms, noble profession, it's not going away. And Tony often says, we look forward 3 years or so. There are going to be lawyers who really know how to use these tools really well, and there are lawyers who don't know how to use these tools really well. And where do you want to be? And Here's our little mascot. We introduced a new mascot in Atlanta. He was called Gavin the Gavel. And so in the dress rehearsals, roll tape. D. Simone has this little AI generated tape. John's going to welcome everybody to the conference and everything. And he takes some editorial liberties, and so with the tape's ready to go, and rehearsal, it's working fine, and there we are live, and I'll be damned if the tape doesn't roll. But we had Gavin the Gavel bumping around. He was fun. And the cream pies. I thought that was hysterical. If you hear someone across the room say something you disagree with strongly, hit them in the face with a cream pie, and then breaks out the room. I thought that was funny. Try to bring a little levity. It's not easy leading lawyers. Lead change. So have a little fun while we're together, and then enjoy the company. And so often the new ones, I'm not alone. There are so many. There are other people just like me, walking in my shoes, dealing with the same issues, and to have a community that's so open and willing to share. And we learn with and from each other, and it's just a great formula. And the MPIs Roger mentioned, we group folks by firm size, about 18, 20 people in the room, and they pick the topics. And we spend the better part of the day drilling down on these. Uri, you've been leading MPIs for a long, long time. You know, anything coming out of there you want to share that might be relevant for our listeners?
Well, I mean, I think I shared earlier, and I'll just double down on that, which is people are looking around the room. Do I have the right staff? Do I have the right talented people in the room to take this next hill? And I think there's smart firms are doing that. There'll always be new tools, but who are the people in the room that are going to take that forward? And I think that's a bigger issue rather than which are you going to use, Harvey, Lagora, August. I mean, there's a handful of them, right? But not that necessarily, but do we have the right people in the room? Has to be, I think, Roger, you said you hired somebody recently from an AmLaw 50 who had done that at a previous. Great. That's great. And we said it earlier, the people who are moving and they're small firm coming from bigger firms or small firms, they want to come to your firm that's forward thinking, investing in the future. And right now, your AI, the investments you're making, send a message. And that's appealing to people coming over to your firms or not.
Well, one of the panels talked about this is the year. This is it, folks. Such an opportunity for firms that are out there willing to take the leap, and the playing field leveler, and be leapfrog the competition. And smaller firms are much more agile. You don't have as many decision makers, and there's, I think, tremendous opportunities for smaller and mid-sized firms that really jump into this. At the end of one of our sessions, we asked the managing partners, okay, your firm's priorities, that's fine and good. What are your priorities as a firm leader, your personal priorities? Here's what they said from the list. We asked them to pick two. You'll notice this totals up to about 100. So it aggregates all the votes. Some people picked one, some people picked two. But there's that future leadership development. There's that implementing change among folks who don't like change and risk. So pick your battles, and where you want to go with it. Roger, what are your top two priorities from this list, if I may put you on the spot?
Yeah, I mean, Chrissy's my idol, so definitely develop future leaders. I think Chrissy's firm did an excellent job in transitioning to the next generation. So that's a model I'd like to follow or learn more about. Firm unity. I mean, I think that's a big one. I mean, that relates to culture, retention. The whole retention piece. I think again, it's almost like the collections versus raising rates. If you focus on firm unity and retention, your ability to attract new talent becomes so much higher and easier.
Attrition is very, very expensive, and the folks at Now talk about the associate attrition. It's an industry-wide phenomenon. It's across industries. These young people tend to want to jump a little bit, and the loyalty that was there when you all were younger in most cases isn't there with a lot of these younger folks. They want to jump around. One of the panelists was saying law schools, and I couldn't believe this, in one of the MPIs, law schools are encouraging their graduates to jump around a little bit. That's how you ascend within the profession. You jump around. And if you're recruiting out of that law school, graduates who have been told to jump around, it's in their best career interest, what's that all about? I thought that was an interesting comment. And, are the law schools doing the job we want them to, and furnishing good AI ready graduates? What are your two priorities, Uri, from this list?
Oh, I want to hear Chrissy's.
All right, Wolf. You thought you snuck through by that one, huh?
Sure. Develop future leaders, because I'm going to need somebody to take over for me eventually. So that's now it's always on the list, right? Making sure that you have a good pipeline of people who will, whether it's leading a group or an initiative or the whole firm, people who are interested, engaged, and will help keep the law firm moving towards the future. And then I think promote firm unity is always important. I do want to say one thing. We had a very interesting input from one of actually the facilitators who is much younger than anyone on the generational differences and loyalty. And I think we think of loyalty as staying in some place for 25 years, and that concept just doesn't exist anymore. For younger generations, they don't see that they get that loyalty from people, and they don't see it as being disloyal to want to move around, because that's how it has existed for that 15, 20 years now. They're more experience based. So I think there's a different mindset altogether between people who I think are a little bit more seasoned in the profession and those who are just entering into it as to what loyalty really means.
Roger just reminded me what time it is, and it's that time. So we'll be back next month with Joe, by the way, from Nine Sail. I think that's the young man you were talking about, perhaps. Really forward thinking, integrating technology. Please take a few minutes. You'll be directed to a brief survey. What you like, what don't you like? Roger, thank you. Chrissy, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great holiday weekend, and we'll see you again soon. And Uri, glad you got to us eventually.
Thank you.
Thank
Good seeing
you all.
everyone.
All right,
Everybody,
take care.
bye. Have a good afternoon, Elle.